Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS podcast, the Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. We are back at full strength tonight. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome aboard. Thank you for listening/watching. I'm one of your co-hosts, Aaron, and with me, I'm happy to welcome back Michael, who is in the seat
Yo,
across from me. In today's episode, we're going to cover where the meta is kind of shifting, shaping up for Louisville. We have a lot of us in the PCS Discord that will be there, so I'm really excited to kind of jump in. We got a jam-packed episode. Michael, I know through just DMing with you directly, you've had a stressful 2 weeks. I hope you're fully recovered, but how are you and the family doing?
yeah, man. I think craziness and stressful, or whatever adjective you want to use to describe the last couple of weeks, is very true. Haven't really thought much about Pokemon simply for the fact that life's just been kind of hectic. We had starting last Tuesday, which meant Monday night. My wife and I were scrambling to basically pack up our house. We had new carpets and floors installed, so little did I know it would feel a whole lot like moving again. I told Candace, like, we're never moving again because I hated this. Like, I was miserable the whole time, and like packing up my office upstairs, like this whole stuff behind me and like all the stuff to my left and in front of me. I was like, man, this is way too much. I can't do this. So, not to mention we have a great interest rate, but we're pretty much never moving ever again. Is what I determined after this. But yeah, no. So on top of all that, the kids got sick, and you know how it is with one kid, and you're soon to know what it's going to be like with two. When one gets
Yeah.
sick, you're almost doomed to have both get sick, and then at that point, you and your partner are also equally as doomed, and that's what happened to us. So it started, I guess, like Wednesday or so, and I actually think it was like two waves. It typically comes in waves too. So Hayden was sick the week before, then I got sick, then Hayden got sick again, and it just all kind of um, accumulated. And on Friday, I stayed home with both boys while they were still trying to do work on the house too. So it was pretty interesting. That said, I did get to play some Pokemon a little bit last week. I got to play our buddy Steven. We're homies now because we got to hang out at Baltimore for a little bit. So for the PCS Challenge, we are now in the new season for the PCS Challenge, which is exciting. That was week 1. I took home the dub. Sorry, Steven. It is what it is. It was 2-0. I played Charizard, and he played the Palk Ghost deck too. So really good games. I think both are really cool decks. But yeah, no, a lot of fun. But again, not a whole lot of time to think through Pokemon. Since the last time we talked, I started doing like a 30-day challenge to kind of like kickstart my health back up again too. It's something I did when Graham was about this age of Hayden, where I ran at least a minimum of a mile every day. And so I've been doing that. Today was day 7. I finished the first week with like 15 total miles, which,
Nice.
back in the day when I was running ultras, like that was nothing. But I've got to remind myself that I got to start somewhere. So that's kind of what I'm prioritizing right now, is just trying to get back to being healthier as well. So that's been good. It's been really fun to go back out. My body is trying to remember what it's like to run. It's crazy to think like I ran the Grand Canyon, nearly 50 miles in the Grand Canyon, and now like I go out and run a 5K, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm dying out here. So it's definitely a journey, but I'm excited to be back. So yep, that's kind of I do think that I survived last week simply for the fact that I was running, and it helped me to keep my sanity. So that's a plug for anybody. Maybe sometimes exercise is good. It keeps you sane. But yeah,
Yeah.
man. So yeah, and the usual football, college football. I got done, 7 o'clock tonight coaching Graham's flag football team too. So we're in hardcore football mode. Again, since we last talked, Georgia unfortunately lost, but then we picked it back up this week and also got to see Alabama and Tennessee lose. So anytime both of those teams lose, it's a great time for us too. So go
Yeah.
Dogs, and what do they say out there? It's anchor down and woo pig. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, man. But
uh,
how about you? How's your week been, dude?
Yeah, well, props for you for exercising, taking that. I think just taking that first step and committing to yourself and going through. I, for one, have always hated running with a passion. But playing sports, like I'll play tennis or I'll play any sort of basketball, I'll play anything for hours on end. It's just my way to consume that.
Yeah.
But when you're 3 knee surgeries in, like your body can only kind of with handle
Yeah, for
Like I
sure.
played pickleball
Dude,
last year with my
I played pickleball
yeah.
for the first time last weekend, my guys' weekend, and it was a blast. I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, I if I could play tennis, I would, but like it's easier. It's tennis in Iowa is not very big, so. But
Yeah,
he's an athlete. Played sports. Just he's a few years old than me. But like last summer,
yeah.
we played pickleball for like 90 minutes, and I thought I had a knee surgery the entire like next week because I was so stiff and sore every morning. I was like,
Dude.
oh man, this. Yeah, I hate it. I need a robotic knee sooner or later. So please
That's
continue
awesome.
funding the PCS podcast that's going through. But
Yeah,
no, I'm glad to have you back.
yeah. Good to be
We
back.
both agreed to get a pot, get something out there, and I did my best college try
You did a
at just.
fantastic job.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. I was actually surprised. I got a few compliments even in this court of, hey, you did really good. And I was like, boy, I'm just happy that people liked it because when you don't have someone to feed off and you just constantly talking, that's where I was like, hopefully I didn't sound too out of breath on the recording, but thank goodness for audacity of stopping so I could collect myself and retrim the big pauses for time because I was like I said a little bit later in the night from when we normally record, so I was just trying to go through. But first off, Andrew, I am a man of my word. I am repping the Vatech shirt here. For those that maybe didn't catch in, we had a good back and forth before the Baltimore tournament that you played in, Michael, along with some other PCS members. And I said, I feel like Ancient Box is going to go through. And I said that like in the end of August. So it was about 2 weeks till we kind of got there. And it was so close. I think it was like 9.58. So it was like basically 0.4 percentage of missing out. So it was Andrew, thanks for sending. Thank you for being a man of your word. I just realized that it was like I think last week, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I never sent him my address because he even DM'd me. So I was like, hey, you got to hold me accountable for myself. But I was like, here it is. You got something shipped. So here you go, Andrew. I'm repping it tonight for the podcast. And lately, the last couple weeks, I have just following that pokey parent, pokey dad life of trying to balance and absorb as much information on uh, the main two decks now at this, but I'm pretty much sold on the deck that I'm going to play, and just learning the lines of play and just matchups of going first, which is basically almost every deck or every deck in this format right now. But
Yeah.
it's just I find myself at just like, man, these young pups, they just got it so easy. They can just absorb like 8.5 hours of practicing a day where, I'm trying to do house chores because my wife is out getting close to, I mean, we're about 2 months away now because it's
Yeah.
just after Christmas is the due date. So we're getting, ever so close to that. So I'm just doing house chores. And then obviously our son is, over 3. So just the life of a 3-year-old and the absorbing of, it's really hard now because he's taller and he can reach things. So like if I have cards out, I'm in perpetual fear of whatever he has on his hands will end up on them. So just trying to, jealous of them at the same time. I wouldn't be who I am today without obviously my beloved ones. So shout out to them, but just trying to balance and give myself the best chance of obviously day twoing and hopefully more. But I was happy on Sunday. I spent probably almost 4 hours of just sorting cards, getting decks built to bring so other people could test certain matchups if they haven't gotten that in. So I was just trying to do one for the community of making sure that I'm bringing as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I did spend some time last week. I you know coaching, and sometimes it's a hot button debate, but I think from a lot of people within the Discord, the coaching that they've received has been really good. So I got a session with Cyrus Davis on Friday, and Cyrus was tremendous for that. Just over an hour, I felt like every question was answered, and I liked how she had prepped of like, what's your goal? And let's work towards that goal. So you kind of filled out a nice questionnaire, and then we just went over a whole bunch of stuff, the meta, where things are at, and just lines of play, and then did some play testing. So that was really fun. I'll plug plug that aspect because it is good. And then I'd forgotten that Cyrus is recently a Poke parent as well too. So 4 weeks into it, and I was like, oh boy, I want to be as respectful of your time. So please go back to the most important thing right now. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. And then I got to play Josh in our PCS challenge. Worked that in. I played Golden Go versus his Roaring Moon, and at first I'm like, "Oh, this is free." And then his last two cards in his list were two Binding Mochis, and I was like, "That's not good." That allows you to hit the exact number that you need to hit.
It's kind of a cool
To
number. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then I was like, "Oh gosh!" And so my plan was going in is just that the nice thing with Golden Go is as long as you don't have to, basically as long as you don't start Palkia never sees the light of day till like basically you need to set it up for that next turn to accelerate some energy back into itself to
Right.
either swing, like on a squawk, for example. So I was like, well, I'm just going to set up, be a one prizer. I was looking back and forth at Golden Go list between the list in Dortmund, that obviously that player is just the Golden Go god, and then online, and I saw like one that kind of had a Klefki build, just a one of, and I did get to start that one turn or one game, so that helped. But that was fun. Always appreciate playing the weekly stuff that we have in PCS because, like I said, that's a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
but we have a lot to cover, so let's jump right over to Louisville.
Yep.
Yours truly. I will be there, and bring as much PCS goodies as possible. And there's going to be quite the contingent, so I'm hoping we can get a photo of all the people in the Discord that listen or anything. So please, seek me out, but I'll plug that later. And
Yeah.
Stellar Crown, it didn't bring a ton of exactly cards, but it did bring a couple kind of regurgitated life into Dragapult, and then obviously Tropicos being the poster child, and obviously the Dust Snore is now even more popular than it was obviously at Worlds and stuff. So let's take a quick look over at Justin Basil of kind of where the meta's been the last couple weeks.
Yeah, real quick too before we jump into that, I was just looking this up since I'm still technically registered because I
Oh
couldn't get a
yeah,
refund for it. So there are actually 2,673 people registered for Louisville too. So that number has increased quite a bit since the last time I looked too, which is pretty sick to see. I think Baltimore was 28 or 27, something like that. So pretty
yeah.
pretty solid.
And when I
Um,
looked at Baltimore for juniors and seniors, I think it was like just around 450 or 460 combined.
yeah,
So I think we're gonna have a 9 day, round or nine rounds on Saturdays. Is at least when I'm telling
yeah,
this
yeah.
kind of whole hurricane thing in Florida. Like hopefully people like Carlos, he
Hmm.
sent that
Hmm.
on Saturday, I believe, and so his family packed up and head north to, I believe, the in-laws. So like
Yeah,
they're living out of there, and then he's driving all the way there. So like props to him, and hopefully
yeah.
everyone
Seriously.
in Florida that listens. That's where Pokebrews lives. He lives just outside Orlando. So I'm hoping that everyone. I
Yeah,
know he is a pretty faithful contingent, but I'm hoping that he's safe, and then everyone in that area is just obviously safe
yeah,
as well
yeah.
too. So
Lots of crazy weather. I know Western North Carolina got hit pretty hard too. So,
yeah,
but yeah, no. So yeah, let's jump into it. Let me switch over to the screen. Here is Justin Basil's tier list. I think it's just dropped today too. So pretty cool to see. Aaron, I don't want to like jump too far ahead too because we're gonna do our own tier list too. But
yeah,
um, we just wanted to kind of pull this up to show where online meta has been, and then this goes from October 7th. Results ending since September 23rd through October 7th, which is today. So interesting to see. I'm happy to see Lugia on up there. I'm not happy to see Iron Thorns. But I think, a lot of what we'll see here soon, I think this will really kind of shape our meta. I think this is a pretty telling outcome of what we're going to see here. So I'm
yeah.
excited to watch. I'm jealous. I'm going to miss being there and miss seeing the big PCS crew that you guys are bringing. Wow, I'll be in Savannah, Georgia instead. So,
Oh, there you
yeah.
go. Certainly not a bad silver medal is what I'll
No,
say.
no, we'll take that. We'll take it. Lots of good
Yeah,
football and lots of good Pokemon to be had this week. So hopefully I can see you on stream. Make
yeah,
it make
yep.
it happen.
I hope, man. I hope to represent the community as proud as the best as I possibly can.
Yeah, I know. Hey, real quick too. Do you have any Terapagoses? This is something because again, you and I were chatting offline about this, but
Yeah.
I have not really bought any new. I mean, I bought two booster boxes, but I have one Terapagos, and I was like, oh, cool. I got some time to wait. But they're still like $15, $16 for those things, which is crazy.
I pulled zero and I bought in zero.
Yeah,
So that I think the pull rates, I got a booster box and a couple bundles,
Yeah.
and I got my playset of Rotoms, fan Rotoms, I should say. I got
Yeah.
my playset of Hoot Hoots and Noctowls, so like that, I was happy. And then Bouffalants. I'm trying to even think. I think Hydrapple EX. I pulled a basic, and then I
Oh,
pulled
dude.
like the super or the secret rare, or not the secret rare, the alt. I hated when they renamed stuff.
I know.
Whatever
I
the
know.
one is, that's really cool. That looks like
SIR,
it was a
the
yeah. Thank
SIR.
you.
Yeah.
SIR, that looks like it was like a caveman drawing or something like that. That,
Yeah.
that looks really cool. So I have one of those, but Zero Tropicos. So I think that really like helped lock in of
I know.
Reggie, Lugia, and Golden Go. I wish I maybe had picked up Golden Go like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something that I've performed really well with, like, the 15 times that I played it on the ladder and then
Yeah.
within the Discord and stuff. It's just, I don't know. It seems that the deck kind of speaks to me, and it's like, oh, you just draw a whole bunch of cards every turn. And then Yelly's regional list, I was like, ooh, the 1/1, the
Yeah.
barrel line, like that kind of is my
Pretty good.
sauce, because he's
Hmm.
he's playing a little bit differently than what you saw, like the tabletop out in Washington, the Kawasaki's and a few
Yeah.
others played that to Worlds and stuff. So it was a little bit different. So been kind of messing around and trying to find like a even balance between those two. But yeah, I think we thank Justin Basil obviously for doing this every Monday. It really helps just do a really quick recap of what's been shifting the last 2 weeks, which leads us obviously right into our tier. And so I'll preface this that we're not going to do percentages. I will post to see, because I was so close, and everything that I said in
You
Baltimore,
were
it was
pretty spot
scary.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I will do that for the community here for just the last minute, and I think the people that are going, like we've talked about it openly in the discourse of when we've been testing and hanging out in the voice channels. So this is going to be where we think the play is for this week. So it's kind of more so these are the decks to consider that we think would perform well. In terms of essence of time for both Michael, myself, and you all listening or watching, we're going to avoid the percentages because there is a lot of decks to discuss. We might not make everything on here,
Yeah.
but we're going to obviously talk a little bit about everything. But I'll let you start us off, sir.
Yep, sounds good. So pretty standard deck choices that we decided to put on this. There's only two that weren't on this from Trainer Hill, which, by the way, a little plug for my buddy at Trainer Hill. If you see him at Louisville, he posted on Twitter today. Like you can get some PCS. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm still recovering over here. You can get some PCS dice from our homeboy here, Aaron, but also Trainer Hill will be handing those out too. So shout out to Trainer Hill for this awesome resource. That said, the majority of these decks were already pretty standard based off of what's being seen and being played online the most. The two that we added in here was Dragapult, Dusknoir, and Goldango. Obviously, Ryuki's list was pretty broken, and then we've seen a lot of top players commenting how broken it is. I think just subtracting one Rotom and adding in a Cleffa to that list. So we did feel it was nice to differentiate between that and then the more common Dragapult Pidgeot. And then, of course, Aaron's favorite, and I think a sleeper pick too, Goldango is here as well. So just that quick caveat. But let's jump in. S tier deck. Aaron, do you think we have any S tier decks this format? Is there anything that just stands out that just is like absolutely crushing it to you? Or do you think this is a more well balanced, or wouldn't say well balanced, but a more 50-50 meta or
What
something?
widespread, yeah, is
Yeah, that's the
probably
word I
the
was
term
looking
that I
for.
have.
Yeah.
Like Charizard feels like in a really good position just because of the potential that it can do, and especially if some of the big numbers that we see here are kind of the big basics. Like Charizard is really primed for that good position, but just nothing can stop Dusknoir.
Mhm.
So, and people love to play Charizard. So to me, is like Charizard would be an S tier call if I knew Tord was coming first off,
Interesting.
and playing like in Plains-Zard, it feels like that. The more I've just been thinking about it, and I think if you take Charizard back to like the roots, and kind of forget about the Dusclops and Dusknoir line and just focus on what you do best and trying to maximize your efforts, and maybe trying to find another fire attacker that is really efficient. Hint, hint, NTV. It can be something really good that maybe if you can't get your Charizard EX in play,
Yeah.
So much right now is go wide and everything, and Entei just like Raku now, and there's not tons of really big water attackers. Obviously, Palkia, comes in here, but
Yeah.
it can't do anything to Zard as well too. Just depending, I guess, on what they pop. But I would
Yep.
say like if one of the top 10 players in the world was coming and playing Charizard, then it's like okay, I feel like that could perform really well. But if we're just looking at this, no, Michael, I don't have an S tier deck for this format.
Yeah.
And I'll keep myself grounded with obviously my deck choice, but
Yeah.
I think it's so widespread and it's such a win the coin flip type of stuff, except if you're, Miraidon,
Yeah.
Turbo Moon, and
Yeah.
Raging Bolt.
Yep.
Those are the only things that want to go second now because it's all about get your evolution, get your combo plays early, and basically decimate the board so then they really don't have anything, is my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I love Charizard. I've loved it since the beginning. But I think there's just too much hate for it. I think with control being so prevalent this meta, I think also Iron Thorns unfortunately coming back onto the scene. Like there's just a lot of
Yeah.
hate for Charizard to where it makes sense why some of the top players are choosing to go elsewhere at this time. Like still a very good deck, and I think we can actually focus on that too. First, again, I think us taking away the meta percentages allows us to be a little bit more flexible here too. So we'll go
Yeah.
ahead and pick
Yeah.
Charizard Pidgeot. I think we both agree it could be S tier, but it's not. So I think that obviously puts it in a good spot to be a solid A tier deck. I think we'll at least see one make it. Well, maybe I don't know. I don't know if I foresee there being one in top 8.
If
Probably
you
asymmetrical cut, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it can get there. If we look at some of where the regionals, and obviously it's not on the SPE and we don't still have as
Mm-hmm.
much data
Yeah, we don't have
as we
time
would
there.
like.
Yeah.
So it's we decided it's not the best to really cover. But anyway, if you look at Baltimore and you look at Dortmund and you just go look and then the regional in, oh gosh, was it Brazil? Yeah, it was Brazil.
Joinville. Yeah, Joinville or
Yeah, Joinville.
Joyville.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you look, Charizard is really well represented in day two. It's just
absolutely.
not getting to that top cut threshold. A
Yeah.
lot of top 32s and even more
Yeah.
top 64s. Like I was just scrolling through Dortmund and I
Mm-hmm.
think I counted like 7 from like basically 21st down to
Yeah, we can pull it up real quick.
like 64. So like it was, yeah, bring that up because I remember if we just scroll past that first page
Yeah, yeah, I know.
and
It's
then
the 20th place
like
list.
yeah, and then if you keep scrolling down, like then boom, 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 like all right through there.
Mm-hmm.
I see a whole bunch of them listed
Yeah.
after outside of top 32. So that tells me,
Shout out to our good buddy here locally, Riley, who traveled all the way.
oh, sick.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Riley's a great friend of ours too. So shout out to Riley for running a really cool, unique list of Charizard
Yeah.
Pidgeot too. So, but yeah, you're
So
absolutely right. They're all
yeah,
over the
like it's
place.
there, and a lot of especially with the numbers that they adjusted for this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just one win, right? And then all of a sudden you're in the top cut. So I do think if a strong player that comes and brings it, I
Yeah.
think that it could represent the top 8.
Yep.
Maybe even if you can perform well in top cut, just kind of really depends what's in that top cut. But I feel A
Mm-hmm.
is solid,
Yeah.
and we can move on to
Yep.
everyone's big basic beat stick deck is Raging Bolt.
Raging Bolt.
Um,
I think it's a solid A tier choice for us too. Personally, I think what was it? It was the most played deck both in day 1 and day 2 at Dortmund, right? If I remember correctly, or
Day 1,
day
day 2
one.
was Terapagos.
That's right. That's right. It
But
didn't
it did
convert as
have,
well.
yeah, it was, so it's not wasn't like Baltimore where it was on
A
number
total
one deck
flop.
day 1 and then never saw anything. It
Yeah.
did actually have some more advancements
Right.
at Dortmund. I think if cut the Briar crap out, just go with 4 Pokegear, 3 Pokestops or 4 Pokestops, and literally play the deck that it's designed to be played, which is just use Pokestop as your engine, draw some cards, teal dance, get the number, or find the Sadas obviously,
Yeah.
and then get the energy you need in play, and the 70 times damage is
It's pretty awesome.
like I know Drew's been playing a lot of Chen Pao, and props to
Yeah.
him because he's been playing it very well. And Chen Pao, isn't on here, but like if a Chen Pao head showed up, and you just see right. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is that 70 times damage
Yeah.
is so easy, and with everything being a I want to go first.
Mm-hmm.
Except obviously, if I know I'm playing Raging Bolt, then obviously I'm going second as Reggie Drago. But it's if you're seeing that across, like it's very intimidating. Is all I'll say is like, oh my gosh, please don't, for the love of God, hit the combos that you need. But
Yeah.
I think if they cut the text and just go max stream consistency,
Yeah.
it's there. We'll see. It kind of depends. With Dragapult getting more popular,
Mm-hmm.
Raging Bolt could be in line
Yeah.
for kind of its time in the sunlight, maybe.
I do think, and to your point, I agree. I think at cutting the text, I will say though, I've played a couple on them or I've played against a couple Raging Bolts online with the Briar, and I think it really hates on Charizard a ton. So like again, I think if people were playing Briar, like taking 3 prizes with an Ogerpon is pretty cracked. And it's happened to me, and it's so frustrating because you can't stop it. Like there's no
Yeah,
way, like because they're gonna take a 1 prizer, and they're not concerned about taking that 1 prize at the beginning of the game too.
right.
So I could see Raging Bolt if they decide to come in droves and play the Briar though. It could really hold Charizard back a lot. But yeah, I definitely think we'll see one make a pretty deep run, or even a couple. I mean, there will be there, and I think again, like Baltimore, this is a second U.S. Or second North American regional at that. So I think a lot of newer players will be there, and a lot of
Yeah.
players will be playing Raging Bolt because it's a great deck. It's really strong. It's easier to navigate. I wouldn't say it's the easiest. I think you still have to have a really good sequencing to be able to see the deck the way you need to see it, and things like that too. But yeah, good deck overall. Which I do think you kind of alluded to the next one, so we can keep on trucking since there are quite a bit. Dragapult, Pidgeot. Um, I really, for the longest time, I hated this.
Uh, Go to the second Dragapult list. I think is actually well, we can do both. Let's do both Dragapult. Sorry to
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
you
Well,
off.
no, you're good. You're
I
good.
apologize. Yeah, yeah, I
No, we'll do both.
apologize.
Let's do Dragapult Pidgeot first. So this one is what we're seeing the most play online. Dragapult Dusknoir was the one that Ryuki played and won with. But I do think Dragapult Pidgeot tends to be, in my personal experience, it's a little bit more consistent. But again, I think I've seen some lists playing the Noctowl even too. So like, which I think is so cool to see. Like, I don't know, just in general, I've really used to hate on Dragapult as a deck, and I've just actually really been enjoying it this format. I've not again been able to play a ton, but I do think it's a solid deck, and I would argue it's an A tier deck, both of them perhaps. Maybe that's being overzealous on Ryuki's, but I think there's enough top players who have a ton of hype behind that Dragapult Dusknoir build that I would confidently put it as a A tier deck. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? At least the Dragapult Pidgeot in A tier. But what are your thoughts before I
Yeah,
lock that in?
I think it's solid. I could see. I could see the Sparkling Crystal really helped fuel being able to attack that turn two with the rare candy and an Arvin and
Mhm.
everything to
Yeah.
get that there. So I feel like yeah, it's probably just on the outsides of A, and then the Dragapult Dusknoir. I feel like that is going to be well represented. So I'm actually kind of curious of what they put for the meta. Like if they're going
I
to
know.
combine all
I bet that.
Dragapult,
I bet they do.
I think it's going to be like a top four, deck easily, maybe even third, possibly. We'll see here, but like
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be on the first page,
Hmm.
especially if they combine them. It could even get all the way up to closer to two, which we'll talk about. But
Yeah.
uh, something to spread damage, something that's 320 HP, that's not doesn't have a weekness. I think it helps.
Yeah.
I really like the Ryuki's list that won
Oh,
in
it's awesome.
Dortmund.
Yeah.
Um, I just think looking at that, it just is able to do the things that it needs to do,
Yep.
and so I think,
So
and
much damage spread.
I've always yeah I mean it's just you're getting everything way out there, and I
Yeah.
love that they're not thinning out the Dracloaks because the Dracloaks is one of the best cards basically in this deck of actually
Absolutely.
being able to help go through. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that is probably in a little bit better position than Pidgeot Dragapult. But again, both strong decks,
Yeah.
and damage spread is good. So I think yeah, kind of the outskirts of A.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Um, I say that because I feel like Lugia Archeops is primed for a good representation here. It seems that especially in North America, it's always a lot more popular than it is anywhere else, except outside of Japan. Japan also loves Lugia, and it
Japan
always
loves
does
it.
very well. Obviously, Japan really loves it, but the EU
Yeah.
does not really play it very often. I feel like that is in a very good position this weekend, and that is one of the decks that I am targeting because I feel like it is going to. If you look at Baltimore, was it like 8%, maybe
Yeah,
barely 7% or something like that? I think it was just above Reggie Drago, barely.
I was one of the
Um,
proud Lugia stands there.
yeah, so I feel like that's going to come back and reach double digits in meta shares, and it should, right?
Yeah. Uh,
Rahul's list is
Yeah,
unique and he's awesome at it, but like the one missed would terrify me, and now
right.
like it's automatic like three missed for me.
Mhm.
But I'll cut it over to you because you're the regional Lugia expert.
Yeah, no, I know, and I've seen Rahul post about how broken his deck is, and obviously it's working for him. He's been on an absolute historic run, but I also don't know if it's for everyone. Maybe it is if you can spend the time with it and you really truly know the lines, but it does play quite different to me than what Lugia typically feels like. And you're right that the lack of mists makes it a little sketchy to me. You really kind of have to dodge around the Dragapults because they could take multiple prize turns pretty easily without those mists, especially because um, when I'm playing Lugia, my mists don't ever go on the Archeops side. I don't care about, like, if they get them, that's fine. I'm gonna put them on what's gonna give them two prizes too. So I will always throw a
Yeah,
mist down on the two prizes or a rat occasionally as well too. But no, I mean the bias in me would put Lugia as the BDIF because I truly believe it is when it sets up, maybe even S tier. But in reality, I just given the slightly unreliable aspect in the nature of the deck, I think it's a solid A tier, and I would argue it's definitely one of the best A tier decks in my personal opinion. Um, I'm not going to be surprised to see Lugia win, um, but I also won't be surprised if it's well represented in top 8 with at least two as well. Um, that all hinges though on how many people decide, like you said, to hate against it and to show up. Will Miraidon be more prevalent? Will Iron Thorns be more prevalent? Like things like
yeah.
that. So
Yeah, I think Lugia is in a good spot. I think if you look at Kieran Farrow's list that he played to second place finish, like
so
that
clean.
feels super clean and
Yeah.
efficient. I am curious now, just with kind of where more things are at, like that's because Wellspring Mask obviously was super popular at NAIC. I think every Lugia, all but one, I played Lugia 3 out of my 9 rounds, which so I played more than what I should have actually played, but I think the Wellspring could sneak back in because not a lot of things are playing Manaphy still.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, like, if you look at, Dragapult, if you're playing that, this looks like a very clean list to me.
Yeah, this is the one that
Um,
won
that,
Joyville.
yeah,
So
that
yeah.
looks
Mm-hmm.
almost the exact list that I have. I think I only have two Ionos in mind. Then I have two 70 HP rats and a 60 HP rat. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's something basically almost carbon copy what I have, and I think
Yep.
the Wellspring kind of coming back in just in case, because we'll talk about that probably next in Terapagos. But I think there is going to be a lot more Area Zero stadiums out there this
Yep.
weekend, so you're not as confined to that five things where it's like, okay, I I can't bench this because I'm going to run out of room for my
Yeah.
second Archeop. So I
Exactly.
feel like it is there, and I am such a fan of the rats. Being able to literally take out any two prizer in the
Yep.
game feels so good.
Yeah, that's pretty
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, which leads me to Terapagos Dusknar is what I want to talk about next. Um, I feel like that is, to me, is the best way to play Terapagos.
Yeah.
I have not experimented, obviously, because I've pulled zero. I have played against it, and then I did play it when I played, it was 2 weeks ago, Carlos and I played. I'm like, hey, I want to play Terapagos just because you know, I've never played it before, but I want to feel like what their hands look like. And I went and found the Terapagos Dustnor because
Yeah.
you're capping out at 220 max.
Yep.
So you need those Dustclops and Dustnor's lines to get that damage spread out. I feel like that is in a good spot. I feel like though with where things are heading, I don't know if it's the exact best play. I think it's the best B tier that we have. And Terapos Desnor, I don't know if people watched, but the Bradner Grant Manley played against now. Uh, Grant did play a 101 Pidgeot line as well too, but I think if you stay grounded, I know Kieran Farah was doing a master class on that, and he's been talking about it a little bit more. And I think if you go look at like some of the online, it seems like the best Terapagos are that one.
Yeah.
I just don't know. It's kind of on that up and up, so I feel like people like to me that's another one that I'm targeting myself against. Is my thoughts.
I think Terapagos in general, it has some interesting play. It has very interesting lines to it. Like it's not, I don't know, it's not as cut and dry as some of the other decks in this current format too. So I think that's what makes it a little challenging. People just don't really know how to play it yet. Like it's not been fully discovered. The lines haven't been fully processed either in many ways too. So I think that's why we see the top of the top players seeing a ton of success with it, but then it just kind of like fizzling beyond that too. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think I think Zach Lasage played it to Lima at the SPE. Like it made a pretty big showing there. I've seen people winning cups and challenges with it too. So it's a very real deck. It's exciting to see a new archetype coming out of a set that we really didn't expect to see a whole lot of newness with. So it's cool to see. It's a cute Pokemon too. But yeah, I think it's solid B tier. I do think that there will be good pilots who pilot it extremely well and make it
Yeah.
into top. Like I think we'll see a Terapagos in Top Cut, no doubt. I saw something. I don't remember where it was at. Maybe it was Lima. Oh yeah, it's this Giovanni. I saw somewhere too that this is because it's got me thinking about Terapagos. They're a
Yeah.
first year masters, and they have placed first and second in back-to-back events with this deck, which is insane to me. Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
Yeah, first year master. They they were seniors last year. They played at UIC, and then they just come and win 7K at Joinville, and then
That is
win
amazing.
Lima with the same exact deck list too.
Which
So, uh,
automatic qualification for Worlds. So yes,
mhm,
no cash,
yeah,
but automatic qualification now. If you
absolutely.
look at the list, I think
Here, I'll pull up
yeah
the one for. I'll pull
four.
up the Lima one instead,
Yeah,
since
yeah,
it's the
just
newest
because
one.
it's the most recent.
Yep, yep,
Yeah, so you're 4-4 hoot knockdowns, and then you're just bypassing all Dusclops. You're trying to get that
yep,
in.
yep,
Three night stretcher, obviously to recover those pieces back, and then yeah, this feels really good. You have the Blood Moon to help clean things up. And you have your, one of counter catcher and then prime catcher. Obviously, is the ace spec of choice for the
yeah,
vast majority, but a really clean looking
yeah,
list um, as well too. So I feel like that is the way to
yeah.
play Terapagos right now.
The one thing, and then we'll move on. But the one thing that still sketches me out, which for some reason it's just not seeing a ton of play, but with Lugia being so good and now Terapagos, like when is Sinnoh going to be like in every single deck, right? Like yeah, you're playing it, but like why is it's not? I mean, gosh, like dude, I'd be running a ton of Sinnoh if I wasn't one of these two decks, just for the fact that they're so prompt. Like Terapagos literally crumbles if Sinnoh is in play. Granted, they
Yeah,
play three. Most of them are going to be playing the 3 Area Zero under depth, so like they're probably going to bump your one of or two of, but still, like it could really
yeah,
slow them down quite a bit too.
yeah.
So just
Uh,
put your Sinnohs in the deck.
Sinnoh's down. Pack your Noivern, your Axes, and Reggie Drago, and
Yeah,
don't
you're
even
good.
use the first attack. Use the second attack for
Right.
140, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to play any special energy from hand or
Yep.
play a stadium
You're just
to
cooked.
counter. So
Yeah.
yeah,
There you go.
exactly. So pretty cool. I guess that'll just lead me right into Reggie Drago.
Yeah.
This is where I'm honing in. Trying to get the exact 60, but it's down to 62 cards, and it's just all right. What do I think the meta is going to result? I don't even know if it might make like sixth or the best deck or not, excuse me, the most played deck on the best of the rest
Yeah.
in terms of meta percentages. You mentioned it earlier. To me, it feels like a little bit of a dark horse.
Yeah.
Obviously, Raging Bolt isn't impossible. I think, if they hit it every single time, they're just going to hit it every single time. But with the amount of uh, studying is what I'll say, and asking loads and loads of questions. I feel much better about that matchup now because I was asking, well, what are the lines of play? What's your goal? If you're obviously going first blind and you flip and you see the Raging Bolt, like what's your immediate plan for that first turn of what you're trying to do? And then ever since like then, I just been theory crafting and trying to just walk it out of my head of like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the actions that I need to do to feel better about that. But yeah, I think obviously the homer in me wants to say A. I think it's like it really hasn't lost anything.
It's not
It's pretty
changed.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good against like the Dusknor stuff. Like that doesn't really concern me because you're attacking with Dragapult a lot as well too. So I feel like it's in kind of a good position of kind of being forgotten about. And watching Bradner and Manley play, like that was just free coaching for me because I was just like watching the lines of play, and it felt really good into Terrapagos Dusknor. So maybe it's the lowest of A's just because that's the homer in me. Trying to say that, but I feel like it's in a good position. I could easily
Yeah.
see something making a top cut. I could think if some of the strong Reggie Drago players that have played it since Worlds, if they represent well, and then I think we could definitely see it. I mean, it's made a lot of top cuts
Right.
at all events, right?
Yep.
It's been a part of. Except I'm trying to remember. I think Gustavo Wada was up there. I'm trying to remember if Brazil, the SPE obviously wasn't anywhere to be seen, but that was only
Right.
300 some players. But
Yeah.
I think in Brazil, there's even one that I think that made top cut, and I know Gustavo Wada, which is a popular name in the PCS Discord. I think he got like 16th with it as well too. So I was kind of looking at his list. Didn't make a top cut.
No,
No,
no top cut.
no, it didn't. Didn't. Okay, so
Yeah,
it was
13th
just the
place.
same.
Yeah.
Okay, Gustavo. So he was the number one at
Yeah.
13. So so it didn't make top cut there, but it's obviously on the doorstep.
Right.
But yeah, I think right now I'm considering playing two Temple. I missed the Jamie Tower for Dragapult, obviously, but I'm not
Right.
really sure if that is going to be my targeted audience of what I want to just say. I'm going to tech for these, 3 to 4 main decks, which play special energy and use big basics to attack. Like League Headquarters
Yep.
feels
Yep.
fun in there as well too, and it's not as good into the Lugia matchup, but in terms of other stuff, like it can be super annoying, especially after Ionohan and they're down to whatever 3 cards. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's all I'll have to say on Reggie Drago because the Patreon will get a round by round diary of how I go through, and then obviously next week we'll talk about my run with Reggie Draco.
Yeah, for sure. Did you just leak your sauce? I think you did.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
I know.
we get a couple hundred listeners, and if
That's
there's
right.
300 people that listen, and they're all at there go through, that's fine. I'll still play. I'll
That's
still
right.
play exactly how I want to play it. Is I feel a lot more confident now, just
Yeah.
getting reassurance of, nope, you play it well. You definitely think and can sequence the deck, so just send it. So I was like, okay, that literally takes like 300 pounds of weight
That's
off
right.
my shoulders.
That's right. Cool. Yeah, I would say for my point again, you let me pick Lugia, so I'm not gonna say anything here. But yeah, I think Reggie Jago's definitely hanging on by a thread with the A tier, but I think it's up there.
Mm-hmm.
For the sake of time, I think we can kind of batch the next few together. Well, real quick, one more we'll talk through on its own. I think personally, Palkia Desnar. I think the list that we saw, Stefan,
Yeah.
what, what did they get? Second place, right? Or no? No. It was fourth place.
Top four.
Yeah, top
Yep.
four.
Yep.
I think the list is super cool. I've played against it quite a bit. I've not personally played it, but I do think it has a lot of. I mean, obviously, being able to buff up Palkia Greninja is super sneaky in the list, and like being able to star portal to the Froakie before you evolve into the Greninja, like just watching Stefan play this was just incredibly masterful and fun to
Yeah.
watch. So I don't know, and I think that it's one of those that could be a solid B tier choice. I think if you get the right person running this list, they're gonna wreak some havoc out there too. So I think this is one that I personally want to see do well. I think it's a fun deck. It's cool to see Palkia kind of finding. I mean, we always knew it was coming back up with this set, but it's fun to see it finally doing its thing again too. So, would you put it in B tier as well? You think? I mean, I don't think
I
we'll
think so.
see a ton of it,
Yeah,
but enough.
Stefan, I think, was on stream twice. Go watch the VOD of that, and just watch Stefan play it. Obviously, he didn't do very well in the top four,
Yeah,
but I think it is a good B tier and the right the right uh, the right artist, because it is kind of a fun deck to play. And yeah, I love the Greninja EX like 101 line. Like, it's so cool. We
yeah,
obviously saw Grafton play it at
yeah.
Baltimore, but I think it's there. It just depends on how many reps the people in. And with that one specifically,
Hmm.
because we'll talk about kind of a couple that I am kind of worried about that
Yeah,
might be up in the rise.
yeah.
You know, you'd think like, oh, not a lot of lightning attackers, but oh, Michael,
Hmm.
Iron Thorns scares the crap out of me. At first, I was like, oh, I can finally cut Canceling Cologne. Like, I don't need to play that. There's not a lot of mana fee. And then now it's just like Iron Thorns is
Yeah.
so primed to do
I,
so well.
I think I'm just gonna go out and
Obviously,
say it. It's up there on the top of B tier for me because when
yeah,
you look at all of the A tier, it does
yeah.
pretty good into the majority of those.
Except Dragapult, right?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
Dragapult doesn't have an ability,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, why I like the Ryuki's list more, is
Yeah.
because it's not as super reliant on those abilities
Right.
from rule box Pokemon, is what I should
Exactly.
say. So Iron Thorns, to me, like, that's where it's like, oh, I had Cancer and Clone cut, and now it's like, and now it has to be back in
Yeah.
there, because obviously some stuff that like Tropicos, they play Manaphy, obviously, but other than that, there's just not a lot of Manaphy running around out there.
No.
But the Iron Thorns matchup would be, it just terrifies me. Granted, it's probably going to be a low meta share, but with me and my dumb luck, I'll see 2 out of my 9 rounds or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, automatically it gets thrown back in there. But I think that is in a prime position to do very well.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit afterwards, and then like Miraidon, I was even talking in the Discord last week, and I was like, what kind of feels super saucy right now is Miraidon.
Hmm.
Um, as some people that are professionals, is what I'll say on their thoughts on it too, and they're like, really good deck. Just it's gonna fizz out after you get to top 32. And I was like, top 32 is 1K cash, so like,
Yeah.
don't tempt me. But I
Right.
don't have enough reps in there. But like, Jesse's going to Louisville, friend of the pod. And if he plays it, then it's like, okay, I think I could see it doing really well if your generators
Yeah.
run hot. But you can kind of look at things like, okay, what's some lightning weak attackers or just archetypes out there, and it's like, oh, okay, instantly some lightning decks come up. Miraidon feels like a sneaky play. Not sure if I put it like the lowest to B, but maybe like C, it going through.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of covers that. And like Turbo Roaring Moon, don't. I guess if they lean super heavy into the binding mochi, because then you're just hitting bigger numbers,
Hmm.
it goes through. But that feels like C to
I think
me.
it's C. Yeah. I think the
Yeah,
control decks as well.
that's what I was
I,
just gonna say. We should probably touch those for a few
yeah.
minutes. Yeah,
To be honest, I think between the two, Bird Control and Snorlax Stall, I think Stall has a good opportunity to do pretty well. As also, we don't see too many. Obviously, it hates Lugia, but if it's playing the Giacomo, the Sinnoh, it could be pretty spicy. But it doesn't want to see Jet Energies. Not a lot of decks are playing Jet Energies.
yeah,
A lot of
right.
decks have cut their switch outs, things like that too. So, um, I know personally I have some friends who are considering Snorlax Stall for Louisville. I think it'll be a big presence there. I think out of all the control type decks, I think Iron Thorns will do the best. And I think we've seen individual, like I think Cal Connor's been wreaking havoc on the online meta scene.
Yeah,
Winning, I want to say Cal won the late night with it too. So,
he
um,
did.
yep. So I think that's the best of them. I could see Snorlax still being a B tier deck, maybe low B tier. I think the right again, so many of these decks, if you like you said with Murata, if you put it in the right hands, that deck is going to do well. Simply
Yeah,
for the fact that they can play around the variants and they can play around their opponents and just skill diff them as well. So I personally would put Snorlax Stall and B, probably
yeah,
maybe up above Miraidon. I still think Miraidon's the lowest of the low on B tier.
correct.
And Pidgeot Control, I don't know, maybe I might get some hate here, but I think it's C tier simply for the fact that it's not as I don't know. Maybe it's a B tier. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one? I'll let you make that decision while I clear my throat off mic.
No, I appreciate. Yeah, no worries, man. Uh, I know that exact feeling, but
Yeah.
I think Pidgeot Control. I've always liked that archetype and appreciated it more than Stall, I guess, because it just feels like you're making different actions.
Yeah.
This would also be something that why I'm so heavily favored into a possible, like I said, I told you is like I basically have 62 cards and I cannot just figure out the exact 60. So, but
Right.
obviously I get to test with some mates on Thursday and Friday, thankfully. But like, you know, they're gonna play Mist, they're gonna put on Mimikyu, they're gonna be super annoying and stuff like that, right? Gonna play your pennies, you're gonna play your Professor Turos and just disrupt this, misfortune stitch or what have you. I think if they don't go first, I think they are in for a world of hurt.
Exactly.
And when we're talking through, because like Snorlax Stall, they want you to be an idiot and go through like. So my always thing is like, oh, I just got to sweep them off the board, and then obviously asking some professionals, it's like no, just literally attach and pass. Attach like do not take a knockout till you get your exact board state where you want it. Set it up.
Yeah.
And we
Exactly.
do that. Iona them, so then they only have 6 cards. Take out the Rotom V, and then etc. And I was like, oh, like that makes way more sense. So I would say like C as well too. I know there was a few lurking around day 2 in Baltimore, but
Mhm.
they just I think they hit Reggie. I think they hit yeah, it was Liam Halliburton hit
Yeah.
Reggie Drago. Ian Robb specifically Reggie Drago in the second that kind of knocked him out of top cut consideration. So
Yeah.
I just feel like with the Dustnors, the hatred of getting spread out, and like Pidgey it's only 60 HP is the highest one. The good one's 50, and that's even worse.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to play the 60 HP, and that is a very good Dragapult number to hit, or something attacking with Dragapult, obviously like Reggie Drago as well too.
Yeah.
And then
Yep. Let's just
the
do the last
rest,
two.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's do
yes.
at least
So like,
Guardy and Goldango since those will
yeah,
probably see more. I think C tier for both of them for this
yeah,
particular tournament.
right person running it. Like I think they're there. Golden Go is like my favorite of those, obviously, because that's just it's going through
We'll bump it up to the
Gardevoir.
top of C tier.
Yeah, yeah. I think if someone kind of gets on it and it has maybe the reps of it and just kind of dusts off the cobwebs a little bit and brings it back out. I think it is because you want to go first as well too. But the nice thing is if you don't start Palkia V, you're just a board of single
Yep.
states, right? And a lot of these things there's no pressure really going second or being attacked outside of the big basic decks. But then when you evolve, you're kind of a weird awkward number at 260. Obviously, it has I believe to be a rough time with Dragapult because they do 200, put 6 damage, so like they're always just taking a one hit KO on that, and you have to sacrifice a lot of energy because 50 times is not anywhere good as 60 times, or excuse me, 70 times. Stupid Raging Bolt, I hate that card. So it's there, and then Gardevoir. I just I guess Henry Chow, if Henry Chow plays it and plays triple Bravey Charm, then it's like, all right, then I
Yeah.
feel like it can go through. But like Henry Chow is one of a kind,
Right.
obviously. But like it just to me is everything's just so tiny right now, and
Yeah.
I'm just not convinced on it. But again, the right person playing the right deck and hits the matchups. And because we'll go into a few other topics, but I
Yep.
think this goes through. Yes, we have a lot of A's, but I think to me, like their A's is because if you hit the
They're good.
matchups that you're targeting to hit,
Yeah.
then yeah, you should
Yeah.
have a successful day.
Yep.
And even like the stuff that we haven't seen, it's like, well, if you hit the matchups that you're hoping to hit, I just truly think now, yes, there is a meta, but when there's going to be so many decks that are all clumped from 17 to like 8%, which I
Yeah.
think is a lot of what you're looking at on the screen, it just you just gotta hope you get lucky and hit the things that you want to hit. It's not like the Charizards of the world, right? Like at
Yep.
22%, or like Reggie Drago at Worlds, right? It was
Exactly.
25%. Like we're
Yeah.
just not seeing that there, and maybe we won't for the rest of this year. I guess we'll see with Surging Sparks. Like
Yep.
even then, we get some cool tech cards and stuff, and like
Mm-hmm.
nothing earth shattering. It's like, oh, this is gonna be a 25%. So
True.
yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
you having that on the screen and doing all the movements and stuff
Yep.
like that. I hope
Yeah, we'll
people
take a
enjoyed that.
yeah, we can take a screenshot of it too. So if you're not watching on YouTube or on
Yeah,
Spotify video, we'll make sure that we post this over on Twitter as well. And then of course we'll
bingo.
post it in the Discord too. So another plug to join the PCS Discord too. Yep. So let's go ahead. I will jump back over to just us talking here. Let's jump in with the next, I don't know, 10 minutes or so or less and just give our predictions too. It's fun. I know you kind of knocked it out of the park with Baltimore with your predictions. You were pretty spot on. So I think it'd be fun to kind of go back and forth here as
Yeah.
well. So let's start out most played deck. Aaron, what do you think the most played deck will be at Louisville?
Yeah, I do think at the end of the day, it is going to be Raging Bolt. I think people have it. I don't necessarily think that that is should be the most played deck. Obviously, as if you heard my answer, I thought Lugia to me feels like the best place to play right now. But people love just playing beat stick stacks. I do every now and then. I have a really big love hate and relationship with beat stick decks. Like I'll gravitate and really love them, and then like they'll completely fall from like I hate big basic decks. But I do think it's the closest that gets close to 17. I don't. I just don't foresee something getting over 18%. I think the whatever the number one deck is, I think it is barely hits that 17% mark. And I guess I could be completely off, but maybe people are thinking like, oh, Dragapult's going to really kick up and play, so then it might get to that 18%. But yeah, Raging Bolt I think is going to be the number one played deck in day one.
Yeah, I agree. That was my answer as well. I will be curious to see. I think people have discovered a little bit more. I know we had some local homies here in the area that were big on the bolt with the ghosts. So I think it'll be interesting to see if that's more prevalent. The Dustnor build. It's not as big of a deal anymore now that Guardy's not so popular, but it could
Yeah,
still help. It helps with Charizard for sure, and things like that too. So we'll see. I do agree, though. I think Raging Bolt is the best, or not the best. I think it's the most played deck. But I don't think it's going to be the best converting deck. With that said, what do you think the best converting deck will be in Louisville out of what we see?
yeah, the homer in me wants to say Reggie Drago because of some top deck things, and just because I think it is going to be like only around like 6 to 8-ish% is what I think. So I think it won't be completely representative, but the strong players that have played a lot of reps with it, because there are just so many lines of play that you can do in each matchup, which is fun to kind of figure out. That Rubik's cube is I think maybe why I've just always gravitated to it. So I want to say that sneakily, I think Iron Thorns could be the best
Mm-hmm.
converting because it could be something like at Dortmund where we only saw what was it like 5% Terapagos
Yeah.
in day one and it was
Yep.
16% in day two. And so like if you know the Iron Thorn heads are out there, yikes. I just feel like they could have a field day. So I'm praying and hoping that like one big group or a couple of the big uh, top testing groups decide like, oh, we don't want to play Pokemon. We just want to shut everything. We just want to kind of
Yeah.
black out the entire event and just play that. So I feel like Reggie
Yeah.
Drago is what my heart wants to say. My head says Iron Thorn. Sadly.
Yeah. That's funny. That was not in either of our notes for this, but that was going to be my statement too. I think in like the back of my mind, Iron Thorns has a legitimate shot of being the best converting because it's not only it's going to have a smaller sample size, not as many people are going to be playing it, and I think the
Yeah.
people who do play it are going to know it really well, and also they tend to hit the good matchups too. So,
Yep.
but that said, my initial gut reaction to that though is knowing the rise of Terapagos, I do think we'll see it to continue that trend of being a highly converting deck. Um, but then I also have a list of honorable mentions to Charizard being one, Drago, Lugia, Dragapult, things like that. But I think out of all of them, my personal thought is the Terapagos Dusknoir. Maybe also the Dragapult Dusknoir as well. I could see both of those being pretty successful in terms of who's playing them and how well they do. So
Yeah.
yeah. So moving along, most surprising deck. I think we both could agree. Iron Thorns is one of the most surprising ones too. But do you have any other decks that would be a surprise to you, or is Iron Thorns your pick?
I mean, yeah, it'd be Iron Thorns. I had that Pidgeot control if they get to go first in all of their matchups, basically.
Yeah,
And then, like I said, I think Miraidon kind of could be something surprising where it's really an afterthought. But if maybe like a local group of like 10 players all get together and just basically copy the to me Jesse's list or something very similar to
yeah,
that, I think it could be in for a surprise as well too, because Iron Thorns is the be all end all of being able to take an extra prize card,
yeah,
and if you throw like a sneaky future booster energy capsule and you don't have the double turbo, or let's say a Temple's in play and then you
yeah,
get that fourth, you're hitting 140 and you're knocking out a Pidgeot EX for 3 prizes. Is something so like I think it could be there. Like I said, but to me, it's something more control is the surprising, kind of like what we saw at come out of Baltimore.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if we have something like that in the radar because Terapagos doesn't have an ability.
Right.
So I think that keeps Cornerstone at bay a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my thought. I don't know if you
Yeah, no,
have
my
something different.
my top choice for this was Miraidon, and it's interesting to say. Like, I don't really think it's a surprising pick. I just think it's one of those where it's not seen as much play or success lately, but I do think it potentially poised for some success. Like, let's just say it comes to Louisville, and it starts
Yep.
the day like the guy who hit me. Although I didn't
Yeah.
lose my matchup, I beat them. But like they hit 3 Lugia, like that totally
Yeah.
changed their day. And maybe they run into the one of a Palkia Desnors out there, like there's so many decks that have Pokemon that are important to the deck that are weak
Hmm.
to lightning. Pidgeot
Yeah.
again. And then also like now that it has Air Zero and it's able like Raikou is a pretty impressive
Oh,
attacker
so
in that deck,
it's so
right?
good.
Like
Yeah, it's
and
so
it's
good right now.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
you just put a couple Miraidons on your bench, you then load up your bench with the other electric attackers. Like it's just one of those where I think it's gonna do well. That said, it has the potential to hit some really bad matchups too, and in that case, then it's kind of cooked. So I do
Yeah.
think a little bit of RNG and luck and navigation with the matchup roulette is important, but I do think I see it as being one that's pretty successful um, going into it. But I don't think it's gonna be the one that wins it all. But that said, what do you think is going to be the deck that we see come Sunday night, walk away with the not the Pikachu trophy because that's reserved for Worlds, but the first place medal and
Yeah.
$10,000.
Yeah, I really want to say Reggie Drago with the right text
We're so
going
predictable.
through. Yeah, we're so predictable. I don't know why people still put up with us, but maybe that just plays into we have characters,
That's
right?
right.
We got to tend to the characters just like we're putting on a production, like the WWE and everything. But
Yeah,
I want to say Reggie Drago to rep the brand. But realistically, for me, like that's why it's on top of our list. Like I really do see a consistent Lugia build, making it and playing more mist energies and rats and leaning into that. Dragapult Dusknoir, I feel like could navigate as well there if they hit their fair share of raging bolts and stuff. Because I just feel like if you're able to attack, like you're just putting so much out there and taking 4 prize turns, right? That's kind of the key is what they have, and Bolt obviously has to hit
yeah,
they have to get really good with hitting all of their energies, especially if you're knocking out Tiamat Scorgopants and stuff, is what I'll say. So I feel
yeah,
like Lugia and Dragapult Dusknoir are there. My heart and head and everything wants to say Reggie Drago. I hope it's me, but maybe someone that has been playing the game for many, many years takes it to a dub for Reggie Drago. So I'd love to have Reggie Drago get a dub, actually. Um,
yeah,
in the official stuff. Obviously, it's taken down online things, but I'd love an official dub
yeah.
at a regional level.
Yep. And like I said, we're predictable. I'm gonna say Lugia. There's no reason for me
Yeah,
not to say. And like I think I could genuinely say it's not just me being a Lugia stan. While it is still, of course, me being a Lugia stan, I think it's poised for an incredible run. When I look at the numbers and the matchups, me and my friend Phil were talking about this too. Like I think it has like 2 sub 40% matchups, and the rest are 50% or better. Like it has
yeah,
an incredible matchup spread. The only thing that's going to stop it is itself, right? And even then, now that we've put Squawk in the deck and like the deck functions well, we have Thornton in the deck now too, in case we saw the one that won Joinville have the Thornton. I played the Thornton at Baltimore.
yeah.
Like there are a lot of ways to make this deck feel more consistent. And
Love the squawk.
yeah,
Yeah,
the Squawk is so good. And I think the list in Joinville, even dude, it ran a double nest ball and a double great ball build, which is crazy to me. Like,
That's what
absolutely.
I talked about on the pod. I went
Yeah.
and looked at it. I'm like, you
Yeah.
with that, you're running your four Roma, four Ultra
Hmm.
Ball. That's just always a must, and then you're running those. So
Yeah.
that's 12. And then I think did they sneak in a Messagoza or two as well too?
Something like that. Yeah. I think there was a
I think it was
Mezzagoza.
two Messagoza because I think I even talked about like you're running 14 Pokemon Search now. The course of the
Just one
stadium, one
Mezzagoza. Yep.
Messagoza. Thank
Which,
you. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you because that's what I talked about last week when I was just going through. I was like,
Hmm.
wait a second, like this is what I love about if I were to play
Yep.
Lugia, or at least I should say have the reps, I would have no problem sending it. I just the lines of play aren't there for me.
Yeah.
I will bring it because I want to test it just to feel because it but I just love that because you're just maximizing to
Yeah.
find Pokemon is what your job is
Yep.
to do, and then discard them is the next thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's there. Uh, I love that you had kind of gone over the questions ahead, but you said what country will take it home for the victory. Obviously, it'd be bad if USA didn't win because we're gonna be 96% of the countries.
We're
But
in bourbon
I believe,
country too. It's America for real.
yeah, exactly, and I can't wait to partake that with some of the gang
That's right.
this weekend as well too. But like I know Brent Tonneson I saw is flying in, so that's really cool. I know Kieran Furra said that he wasn't, but then I did see a post that he is going to be there. So we'll have Canada, and usually Canada has a very strong player base that comes down. I think Louisville being like a new city to visit, I feel like that is going to bring some international flavor. I have no idea from other EUs and stuff. Like that's where I just wish Arcade Nine would officially have a roster out because one, it would make fantasy even more cool. Because you could do that, see the roster, and then you make picks and stuff. But I
Right.
think we both homered it and said USA.
Yep. Absolutely. What was the last one on there too? Yeah, miscellaneous thoughts. I think both of us are pretty.
We've covered it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I
Control.
think yeah. I basically I hide nothing, here as well too. So like I think it's there. Control seems to be like it could be a thing. So that's where it's like, all right, everyone pack your canceling cologne because it's probably going to come in handy at one point or another, depending on the matchups that you face.
Yep. For sure. But yeah,
All right.
those are our predictions. I think we can move over to your updates, my guy.
Yeah. So PCS, please find me at Louisville. Hopefully, you recognize my face, or if you walk by and you hear my horrible voice. I've always had a face for radios, what I've always been told. So I will have PCS stickers and then PCS dice. The flight, I only have one bag, so I am literally jam packing everything I possible. So first come, first serve. So if you see me, please say hello. Let me know, if we're doing a good job, or if you have any cool ideas. Like I said, because I want to play into the community driven podcast that we are, and some things that we have literally is being because the Discord be like, hey, this would be cool if we did this, and it's like, yep, let's do it. If it's a win for me, it's going to be one for everyone else. So please come and seek. We're going to have a great crew there, so I really want a picture. Hopefully we can get into the stream as well too. If not, like I said, I am going to be having like kind of a running diary of just what we did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, obviously, and post that to our Patreon only members. I had a passion for writing, and that was like almost my first job out of college. I was trying to find writing gigs, and then podcast blew up. So I missed my calling because I got scared of trying to figure out how to write that much. But congratulations, I said last time, but Darius or DK, he should be getting his ETB any day now. And then I sent out his Katana sleeves, the Mewtwo EX and Squawkabilly EX, along with some PCS goodies. So props to him again. And if you're interested in receiving these things, we have a Patreon tier for $3 a month. So I mean, you're not looking at outspending much. Allows you to play in our tournaments. Allows you to get into the buy raffle prizing, and then anything else basically that we originally post to Patreon first would be I'm going through. And then Jeremy won our bi-monthly
Yeah.
Patreon giveaway, and he won I got it right here because I was super happy I didn't have to spend any shipping costs. I'll just throw it in my bag. But He won the starters double deck box from Pokemon Center,
Yeah.
and then some katana sleeves. So, Jeremy, I will see you Thursday, and I will hand those over to you directly. Congratulations on that. The next one would be in December, and knowing that's when the baby comes up, I will try to jam pack the December one the best I can, because I will need some of that time to get recollected for February and have some thoughts. But that's the PCS. We're going into round 2 of the challenge this week as well, and we'll, like I said, that one be a little bit more condensed because we have Surging Sparks literally right around the corner. It's
Yep.
Dude, it's freaking a month away till it drops. Like, I just,
Crazy.
and then we'll be in something that feels like we're going to be
An
in a meta for
eternity.
like 4.5 months. Like, can they just like can it just be like an every like 3 month thing, right? I have a
I
set, and I
know.
know this is they make well, they are one of the most profitable mark or brands out there, but I just wish we'd have some time to let the space breathe and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I
Right.
think there's even some like cool decks and cards that are out there like just never see the light of day.
Yep.
And that'd be anything Iron Valiant related, because I'm obsessed with
Pretty
that
cool.
card.
Pretty awesome card.
um, so, Michael, I was so happy to have you
Yeah,
back.
man.
This
It's good to be
felt,
back.
yeah, loved hearing your voice and having the interaction. If only for myself, because I could actually collect my breath while
Yeah.
you were talking.
Happy
So,
to help.
yeah, thank you to all of our Patreon members and everyone that listens. Just you listening, liking, subscribing to our YouTube channel or anywhere else helps support the show, even if you're not a Patreon member, of course. But we do appreciate everyone that has it's really grown. I was just looking back at NAIC, and like I have a new joke now. It's like, hey, push us over to 400, because my joke in NAIC was like, hey, you could be listener 201 on the week.
Yeah.
So I need to, so I might have to prep that, because we're getting over 300 now, which I'd love to see combined. So I got to push that over to 400. So I'll have my shtick with my opponents as I talk with them.
There you
But
go.
for everything PCS related, especially this week, because I'll be very active into the scene, is PCS_pod is where you can find us on Twitter or X, whatever you like to be called. Twitch, still in the works on that. I think, Michael, it'll get there someday.
One
I
day.
think it will get there. If anything, I just probably need to do it so then when I play like my weekly PCS challenge, like we can have that there. But I also like just talking to my opponents in
I
the voice
know.
channel as well too. uh Patreon.com/PCS podcast, no spaces. That's where you can go through and you can see our different tiers that we have. I am excited because we'll be coming up on 6 months here soon, so I need to get some t-shirts ordered out. And then we actually do have a couple members that are at the highest tier, and they will have some special like their Pokemon journey is what I'll get to do. And then I need to find out the world's exclusive decks, because no one's going to choose Iron Thorns, or maybe like someone will. But I know everyone at the second tier and then the highest tier, they get their choice. So I know whenever those are released, and I can never remember when they come out. It has to be
It's
after
around.
Christmas. But
I think it's around the holidays or somewhere around there.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll be on the lookout, but like patreon.com/PCS podcast is where you can see there's a lot of perks in there. And as this grows, those are only going to grow. And maybe there's even a different tier as well that I can add as well too. But and then YouTube, give Michael his props there. He is a wizard at getting things there, with all the thumbnails and the editing and getting going through. I'm so happy that you've joined. So that's youtube.com/ or excuse me, at the PCS podcast.
Yep. Yep.
And
And
Michael, they
you
want
can
to find you.
find me at mradiaptcg on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, you can find us there. Also, quick notes too. This is a site tangent, but don't panic. Iron Thorns currently has like 3 or 4 of them at 4-0 on deck out tonight too. So it's
Oh
happening.
gosh,
It's happening.
this is.
So be ready. Great. I'm glad I'm not
All right.
there.
Yeah. Like I said, with my dumb luck, I just
You're
know
gonna hit 5 of them.
round one. Yeah, round one is just flipping over. I'm just gonna go no.
Yep.
So yeah, that's anyway. Yeah, it maybe if it gets on the up and up, maybe enough people will tech against it where it won't be
Here.
as good of a play. But I think it's too short ahead. So thank you all for listening, watching, subscribing. The I've been so pleased just with the activity on Discord each and every day. It just it brings a very small smile, or brings a smile to my heart and face every time, just because I go through and it's like, oh my gosh, I miss complete discussions of like decks and archetypes and decisions of going first or second. And it's like, this is what my predecessors or our predecessors had the intention, right?
Yep.
Is a very engaging Discord of, casual but just really good people talking Pokemon, and there is always a space for each and one of you. Like, we even have some VGC stuff that's in there, and that mainly is mostly talking about like, okay, what's the raid, and then what's the shiny outbreaks that we can get. So I appreciate everyone for listening. But again, please seek me out in Louisville. Come say hello. How long you've been listening to the podcast? I'll try to give out whatever goodies that I can to each and every one of you. And Michael,
Yep.
I'll catch you next weekend or
Catch you on the flip league.
Monday, and
Probably
then
Monday. Yeah. So you have some time to
yeah,
recover.
yes. I think by the time I get home, it's going to be like right before my son's bedtime, so that
Yeah.
will be all loves and hugs and
That's
snugs
right.
with him. So
Or maybe not.
thank you
Maybe
everyone for
maybe
listening.
maybe you're gonna be in the finals and get home super late.
Yeah, because my flight's at 1, and I
Yeah.
told my wife is like, I might, if I'm doing really well or something, or to me is like, if I have a chance to even top 32 and win
Yep.
1K, it's like I'm gonna do that, because that basically I come home with the surplus of extra cash,
That's
because
right.
Airbnb not super expensive, and the flights were not very expensive. All that's why I'm getting in on Thursday, because it's like Sun Country Air, so we might be flying on a pack of gum. But when they're like when they're like barely like $100 after tax for your each way, so it's like $200 total. It's like, that's a steal and a
You
half.
take
So
that.
yeah, thank you everyone. I can't wait to see everyone in Louisville, and then we'll catch you next week.
Peace.